lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep fitting in love.
Yes, people. It's G. You know what time it is. You know what it is. Back in the building. Again, we're knocking out these videos, bringing these videos to you. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to the channel. As you can see, scrolled across to the bottom. As you guys can see on your screens right now, it is the Premier League Awards. You know, I couldn't end the season without doing one. Might potentially catch me on the JJ show. We may do one together as well, but I said, you know what, let me quickly do my one. I need to get it out. I need to get it out. So yeah, I said, you know what, let's do it. Let's do it. It's been a good season. Obviously, Manchester City winning the Premier League, good for them, should I say. Newcastle getting the Champions League, Brighton getting, you know, European football this season, Nottingham Forest staying up, Bournemouth, probably the surprise package, if I'm being totally honest. You know, they stayed up this season. Who else is there? We've got, you know, Leicester. Now, I'm bringing this to you before the last game of the season. So, obviously, I don't know what the results and everything like that is going to be. But you've got Leicester, Leeds, Everton, all in a bit of a dogfight. Southampton already relegated. Crystal Palace having a bit of a resurgence, you know, under Roy Hodgson. Fulham been absolutely brilliant this season under Marco Silva, Palinia, you know, one of the buys of the season. Erling Haaland breaking goal scoring records, KDB doing KDB things, Rashford, you know, apparently was on track to be Ballon d'Or winner, you know, at one stage of the season. Casemiro was rolling back the years. Bruno Fernandes been creating chances galore, but can't get anybody to get on the end of them. Tottenham being just Spurs doing Spursy things, you know, as per usual. So many different stories, man. There are so many different stories, you know, for this season. And I think, to be honest with you, you know, when you look at the season back as a whole, obviously, you know, if you're on the wrong side of things, then of course you're not going to like it. But, you know, if I look at it objectively, taking out Liverpool, obviously Liverpool being crap, you know, these kind of things, so many different things were happening this season. I feel like it was an enjoyable season. You know, we got to see the Bundesliga tax thing. Well, clearly Haaland said, let me debunk that myth. Let me debunk that. Let me come in here and show you guys that I'll make this the Bundesliga. You know, Pep Guardiola is already doing that anyway. You know, he was already destined to do that with this Manchester City team. And this squad, and ultimately, you know, he's on course for a treble. Whether he gets it, who knows? You know, who knows? That's a story for another day. But, you know, when we're looking at everything, I found like it was going to be difficult today. You know, when I was everyone's doing their own team of the season, and we'll get into that last once we do the awards and stuff like that. I found that difficult. Even the awards itself, you know, that was difficult. You know, so many good players, and it just depends on the criteria that you're trying to give to all of these guys. It depends on what your own criteria is in order for someone to win it. Others, you know, some people do it differently. You know, Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville, they did theirs on Sky Sports the other day. You know, they have a certain criteria that they want to hit. So if a certain player hits that, then, you know, it's so different. And I think I'm seeing quite a lot of these team of the seasons, player of the year, or like certain things like that. And I'll be honest, I think all of them are pretty good. I don't think this is probably one of those seasons where nothing was really wrong, so to speak. Like, you couldn't have really have chose wrongly. You know, you could make a case really and truly for anybody you would have picked because of their numbers, because of their performances, because of the team that they played in, how good the team were. So many different manager of the season that I've never seen a manager of the season award where this is the first time, in my opinion anyway, where I've looked at it for a long time anyway. And it was like, right, how do you pick it? Should I pick it based on this? You know, otherwise, because you just go, all right, whoever wins the league, then you should just be manager of the season. But, you know, this season was like, there were so many stories. Your Gary O'Neills, your Eddie Howe's, your Unai Emery's, the De Zerbis, you know, obviously Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta, you know, Lopetegui, obviously down there at Wolves. You know, so many different things you could have used as a caveat to decide on who you wanted to win these awards. So brilliant. I think it's been a good season, to be honest with you. I've enjoyed some of the football. Some of the football I've watched this season has been absolutely top notch. But without further ado, let's get into it, guys. Let's get into it. Where should we start? Let's start. I don't want to start with the bait one, like player of the season. I'll get into those ones kind of last. You know what? Let's start with goal of the season. Goal of the season. I've gone with Gundogan's goal against Everton. That was recently, 14th of May. It's always difficult when you're doing these kind of something of the season, because the reality is the season was so long. Do you remember what happened prior to the World Cup? I've got to go back. I had to go back and do research and check out this guy and try and remember what was all the goals in this month and what was all the goals in that month. There were some good goals this season. I remember Tony chipping the keeper. I think it was against Wolves, chipped the keeper. I think he got a hat-trick that day. I remember Kevin De Bruyne a free kick. I remember Saka's goal against Manchester United at the Emirates, absolutely peach. That was close actually for me in terms of the technique he had in that, and being able to find the bottom of the net, with a goal like that. That was pretty close for me when I was thinking about goal of the season. Damari Gray's goal against Manchester City at the Etihad, that was a good goal as well. So many, man. I think that this season there was quite a decent caliber of goals. And again, I don't know what other people's criteria is for these kind of things. Let me know in the comments, by the way, guys, your goal of the season. But I'm going to go with Gundogan. It was the only goal Almiron's goal against Fulham for Newcastle that just popped into my head. St. Maximum's goal against Wolves, that volley, that was sweet. Should I change my mind? No. Let's keep it. I'm going to keep Gundogan. That goal was pure technique. Like the technique that he had on that kind of finish was just. I'm speechless. I'll be so honest. I was so speechless when I saw it. And again, not to say I haven't seen anything like that before and all of these kind of dumb things. Of course not. I've seen similar kind of goals before. But it was just the sheer fact that he was able to take that ball down in the box with a defender behind him, have the cool, calm and composure to be able to say, let me just push it down a little bit and then I can do a mini overhead kind of kick, to get it into the back of the net. And it all happened in one swift motion. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's not like the Bergkamp one. The reason why I said it was like that, not because the goals are similar, because they're not. It's the action, it's the instinct. When you remember that, and everyone knows the Bergkamp goal against Newcastle, what you remember about that goal is everything was done in a swift action. There was no this turn, and it was all done as if I was meant to do all of that kind of thing. And Gundogan's goal reminded me of that type of technique. Not to say they are similar, because they are not. Bergkamp's goal was better. But when I think about it, and I just think of the instinct it takes, and, just the fact that you were in the box and your back was to goal. So it's not like you could see the goal. Your back was to goal. And to be honest, in that position, when I saw it live, I was like, I thought to myself he was going to pass it, or he was bringing it down. I was thinking, why are you bringing it down? You can't there's bare man in the box. Even though you had a little gap, there's bare man in the box where you ain't going to get that kind of time to try and bring that ball down. As good as you are, I don't know who you think you are, but then you just took it down calm. It was a good goal, man. But like I said, there were so many other goals. So when it comes to the goal of the season thing, I'm just like, if you're a player who likes a rocket into the net, then you'll pick other goals. If you're a player who likes a curler, you'll pick other goals. For me, I'm all about the technique. I'm all about the panache. And that, for me, had a lot of technique and a lot of panache. Now, let's go to the signing of the season. As you guys can see here, I've gone with João Palhinha of Fulham. Signed for about £20 million, 34 games, probably soon to be 35, and 3 goals this season. Excellent. He has been absolutely excellent. The other signing I did have prior to this was Nick Pope, because I said, for you to get in a goalkeeper, just been relegated with Burnley, for you to get him in and he to be one of the more integral players in your team, to then have, who obviously Newcastle have at the current moment time of me doing this video, they've got the second best defensive record, in the league in itself in terms of goals conceded, one behind, I think, Manchester City. I'm like, yo, that ran it really, really close. But when I think of Palhinha, to me anyway, this season, he's this season he's performed, I would say, as one of the best one of or the top defensive midfielders in Europe. I there's not many I have ahead of him in Europe in terms of being a defensive midfielder. This guy can break up play. This guy can engage very well. He's fantastic on the ball, got a good range of passing. His dribbling pretty decent. He can get himself up and down the pitch and get himself about. Like he seems to be able to do it all in that defensive midfield area. And I think the only defensive midfielder I could think of this season who I was like, you know what, would get in ahead of him was Rodri, and it was very, very close. It was very, very close. I think the impact that he then had on Fulham as well, I think that was why I picked him as my signing of the season, because I said, if Fulham didn't have him in the middle of that park, someone who's just a boss, an enforcer, I don't think they would have done as well as they have done this season. Play pretty football, all of that, which, Palhinha can do, but it's all about, can you do the other side of the game? And he does it so well. So for me, he went down as the signing of the season. Now let's go to the worst signing of the season. You probably know already. It's this guy, bro. You were signed for 60 million, I think it was 60 million pounds from Everton. Now, Richarlison, obviously Liverpool fans don't like him for obvious reasons and stuff like that. I do like him. And that's why I say it's a bit deep for him, because when I look at him, I think to myself, when he was at Watford, I was like, yo, this is a good, like, if he's on your team, you probably do like him. He's one of those kind of players, like an Andrew Robertson. You like him if they're on your team. If they weren't, you'd hate them, kind of thing, because of their attitude, kind of stinky, and they're one of those kind of like dirty kind of players in terms of some of the antics that they do. But when he's on your team, I liked him. At Watford, I thought, yo, he's like rough around the edges, but he's still a good player. You know what I mean? He puts in the effort and all that kind of stuff. Then he moved to Everton. I was like, yo, for Everton, he's been pretty decent as well. Even though those are the rivals, when you take a step back and just look at him, I thought, he's a decent player. He's definitely not, like, he's been obviously considered here as the worst signing of the season for myself, but I still think he is a decent player. And I think a better manager who can utilize his attributes, I think they can get a better result and return, out of him. 1 goal and 3 assists, 4 goals and assists in 26 games. I know a lot of those have come off the bench, but that's bad. That's bad. You know what I mean? I think he only got his first goal the other day against Liverpool in that 4-3, defeat. So it's like, you haven't really covered yourself in glory. Had a decent World Cup, which at the time it was like, why did he go? Why didn't they pick Firmino? Blah, 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 all these kind of things. But during the World Cup, I could see why they went with someone like a Richarlison, because he does all that doggy work for players like your Paquetas, your Neymars, and your Vinicius Juniors, and all these kind of guys to do the nice part of the game. You know what I mean? And he's selfless in that kind of sense. He knew his job. He knew his role. He knew what he was going there to do. So I think there's still a player in this guy. I'm not going to write him off or anything like that, because I do like him. And I do think that he will get a lot better, but it just depends on manager, and things like that. Let's move on now. Let's go to the manager. Let's go to the manager of the season. So I've gone with Eddie Howe. 37 games, obviously to be 38. His team scored 67 goals and 32 conceded, again, at the time of this video. Been fantastic. I think why I've gone for him over, say, Unai Emery or De Zerbi, who De Zerbi for me was actually really, really close. Again, I could have gone with him as well, and there is a case for him to win it. The reason why I've gone with him, otherwise I could have just gone with like a Pep. When I look at Newcastle, it isn't even the fact that, they spent money, obviously bought Isak for quite a hefty fee and bought a couple of other players. It's not even the players that he's signed for me in that kind of aspect. It's the ones that he already had there when he joined and improved, like Joe Linton, where this came from, I have no idea, but all of a sudden Joe Linton looks like a Premier League midfielder. Like, however good you think he is, he just looks like a Premier League midfielder. You've got obviously Joe Willock, he stepped up a notch as well. A player I really, really like, especially under Eddie Howe. I think he's definitely, massively improved. Almiron, we all remember that Almiron, he was going through a phase where it was just nothing but net. It was honestly nothing but net, swishers all the damn time. And the worst thing about it, players like St. Maximin, they've been on the bench. They can't even get in the team. And St. Maximin was like Newcastle's hope. If he weren't playing, boy, you didn't even know where Newcastle's victories were going to come from. But he's been able to come in and just improve upon so many different players. Even players that he has signed in. He's got the smart signings like your Botmans. What's his name? Dan Burn at the back there as well. Players like Dan Burn isn't a fashionable signing, but he's been so good for Newcastle. Botman, he again close to being signing and another signing of the season. He's been so fantastic, in that team. Just trying to think, Kieran Trippier, another smart signing, again, close to winning signing of the season. A lot of players that he's brought into this team, and he's just brought that, from what I can see anyway, from the outside looking in, and Newcastle fans can tell me, is he just brought that feel-good factor back to St. James's Park, something that had obviously been missing for such a long time, under Mike Ashley's ownership. And he's brought that back, and he's brought it back not just they've got money and they're just buying this guy and that guy. He's been smart with it. Obviously, for how long that lasts, who knows? But at this current moment in time, he's doing the right things. He's saying the right things, and his team are on the right track. They're going into the Champions League next season, which I don't care who you were. I did not have them in Champions League this season anyway. Maybe next season, with this season thinking that it would have been one of those get into Europe potentially, so a top 7-8 finish. But this season, defensively, excellent. Absolutely, like they've been one of my favorite teams to watch defensively this season. And again, Callum Wilson getting the goals, Isak getting goals, Almiron getting goals. So many different players are chipping in. Bruno Guimaraes, again, one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. It's crazy, man. So I have to big up Newcastle, and for that reason, why I've gone with Eddie Howe. Now, on to player of the season. Do we even need to really talk about this guy? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, is there even a need to talk on this kind of guy? 34 games, 36 goals, 7 assists. Yeah, I mean, like, there's nothing more that needs to be said. Yeah, I mean, guy came in here. He's now shown everybody that he can play at this level, first and foremost, even though we knew. But, you need, like, confirmation sometimes, just to solidify what some people may or may not be saying in the background. But we already know he's come in. He's done his thing. I don't even know. He is my favorite striker. He's been my favorite striker. People always say, "Oh, but you support Liverpool." Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm a lover of football, and I'm a football fan first and foremost. When I see certain players, you just have to big them up, and he's one of those players. Every time I see this guy, I'm like, this is what you want from a player who just does their job. I don't care that he only touches the ball 3 times. Guess what? I guarantee 2 of those are goals. How about that? How about 3 touches but 2 of them are goals? I don't know no one else who does things like that. Did you get what I'm trying to say? I love Haaland, man. Hope he does well. Obviously, if it means Man City are going to do their thing, they're going to do their thing. Unfortunately, that's then tough luck for everybody else. He should have been the ones to get him, beforehand. But we didn't, so we have to move. But in terms of just appreciating the player, he's been my favorite player to watch, alongside Kevin De Bruyne this season. Young player of the season, I had to give it to Saka. Felt like it was unfair. I'm pretty sure Haaland is actually nominated for that award. I don't know who's going to win it, but technically you'd have to say Haaland, technically. But I feel like Saka, I didn't want to be too greedy to Haaland. I said, bruv, you're already winning everything anyway. Like, let someone else win. Arsenal are already down in the dumps as it is. But Saka, I think Saka's been brilliant this season. He has obviously tailored off a little bit in these last few weeks. And that is something that I'm looking at. Not wholeheartedly. Again, he's played 37 games this season, but not wholeheartedly am I looking at this recent run of form and saying, "Ooh, it's just I've just written it down. I've just written it down somewhere, and I've said, okay, cool, it's noted. This form has been noted. Timing is key. Context is key. It's been noted. But as an overall, Saka's been immense this season, man. He's been probably one of, if not the most influential players that Arsenal have had. Obviously, it's been a collective thing anyway, but been one of the more influential players in getting them to that title charge week in, week out. This guy was just boom, boom, goal, assist, good performance, all of that kind of good stuff. So, yeah, man, I think for me, yeah, he's going to be my young player of the season. And I think that is all I have for you guys. So there you have it. We'll quickly run through that again for you guys. So we've got obviously the player of the season being Erling Haaland, young player of the season being Bukayo Saka, The manager of the season is Eddie Howe. Signing of the season is João Palhinha. And then obviously worst signing, in my opinion, was Richarlison. And then last but not least, we had goal of the season, which was Ilkay Gundogan's goal against Everton. Now, obviously the big one. This is the one that is getting people talking. This is the one where people are beefing on Twitter. I see it. Man are arguing, saying you don't know ball. Your ball knowledge is zero. How can you pick this guy because why is he in your team? But this guy's got more goals. But this guy's conceded. But this guy did this. His team finished here. It's crazy. Like the beef I'm seeing with some people who are supposed to be friends online just over a team of the season is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But this is what happens when you do a team of the season. But then, like I said at the beginning of this video, this is testament to the season in itself. When the season's been this good, this is what happens. It's hard. You can't just pick certain players because boom, boom, boom. And, certain people are like, oh, but you can't pick this guy because he doesn't play in that position, but you need to get him in the team. So you're just putting him, you're putting Salah at right back, for example, dumb things like that, just so that you can get Saka in the team as well. But then you need Harry Kane, and then you still need, Martin Lane. It's crazy. It is crazy. So what I've done is I've done it 4-3-3. And I've done it, like I said, it's, based upon players in their natural positions. So there's going to be a lot of honorable mentions, and we'll go through it, obviously. Let me know in the comments, guys, as well. Let me know, obviously, the awards that I've done, the manager, player, etc., etc. Let me know who you guys would have picked. We'll chop it up, obviously, in the comment section when I post this out. But then also let me know who your team of the season is. Do you agree with mine? Do you hate it? Is it you agree more? Like, I don't know. Just let me know. At the end of the day, I know for a fact, whoever's watching this, I can guarantee, even if it's only 2 people who watch this video, I can guarantee at least one of those people are not going to like the team that I pick anyway. So it is what it is. So let's move into it. In goal, I've gone for Nick Pope. Honorable mentions, I would say Alisson, Ramsdale. I guess you have to throw in De Gea because technically he has got the most clean sheets this season. So, you have to kind of throw him in. But I went with Nick Pope because I think, like I said, signed from Burnley, just got relegated. His stock isn't exactly going to be, super high. But notwithstanding that, he's been excellent. I know he's had a few, I think he got sent off against Liverpool. He had a few indiscretions, so to speak. But I think overall, when I've looked at him this season, and, I was thinking about, the England squad, and that I think is supposed to be announced today at the timing of this video. And I was thinking about the England squad, and I said, you definitely cannot pick Pickford. Gareth Southgate needs to start growing some balls, mate. You definitely can't be picking Pickford. There's other goalkeepers now. Do you get what I mean? Like, we're not in a state where there's only one goalkeeper and there's only Joe Hart and there's no one else behind him kind of thing. We're not there anymore. We actually have other capable goalkeepers to be able to fill in the slots at the bare minimum. So I think that's going to be something that I feel he's desperately going to need to sort out. But like I said, this season, when I take a look at Newcastle, a lot of Newcastle players deserve to be in this team because of their performances this season. So yeah, he just happened to be one of them. Let's move on to, let's go left to right, as they say. Estupiñán. So this is for my left back position. Now, I can already hear people saying, oh, this brother, what's he on about, kind of thing. Now, you guys already know I've always got to come with a bit of a rationale. I can't just be in here and just putting certain players in certain positions, and man, I start to look at me and doubt my knowledge and all of that. I don't want any, hassle from anybody. Reason why I've gone with him and not say a Zinchenko. Zinchenko was the next person I was going to pick at left back. He blatantly was. And also, when you look at Brighton this season, they have conceded a fair few amount of goals this season. So it's not to say, oh, he's been flawless at the back there. But when I think about Estupiñán and Zinchenko, the way I looked at it was like this. Zinchenko, obviously, is probably a more all-round player. You never know. I mean, you put Estupiñán in an Arsenal team, you never know what the result that you might get a different type of player. But anyways, Zinchenko, when he has a very good game, his best games are better than Estupiñán. The difference is he's not consistent with it, in my opinion. He has too many down days. I feel he's had more down days than Estupiñán this season. Estupiñán has been way more consistent, in my personal opinion. But when Zinchenko has had a good game, it dwarfs any good game that Estupiñán has actually had this season. I.e., for example, if let's say if Zinchenko's best game was a 10 out of 10, then Estupiñán for me, his best games would have only have been like an 8.5 at most out of 10. Like in terms of that would have been considered his best game of the season, or just his best game in general. So when you think of it like that, I'm like, okay, so then go with Zinchenko then. Obviously, Arsenal, second in the league, just would have been easy to kind of gone with him. But I looked at the whole season, and these last few weeks also showed me how consistent Estupiñán has still been. He's just been himself consistent, steady Eddie, and he's been decent as well. Do you know what I mean? He offers quite a bit going forward, kind of thing. So he took it, but I'm also not saying that if you went for him, I know some people spoke about, I think, Luke Shaw as well. He was an honourable mention, Luke Shaw. At the end of the day, like I said, the team gets the most clean sheets in the league. You've got to talk about these kind of players. Luke Shaw has been decent, but I think Luke Shaw has actually been better as a centre back than he was at left back. So I couldn't really put him in at left back. So it was only really, and you could have put Ake there. I know a lot of people have put Ake in there because they wanted to get other players in. Hence the reason why I said I didn't want to do that. I said, I'm going to make it super difficult and just put players in the position that I think has just been better overall and more consistent. And I'm gone with Estupiñán. But again, you're going to kill me for it anyway. So, it is what it is. Now, moving into centre-back role, we've got Nathan Ake. For me, been the best centre-back this season. Best centre-back this season. I don't even think... No, let me not say it's not even close, because it is close. But for me, he's been the best centre-back this season. Joined Manchester City from Bournemouth, I think last season. It looked kind of like, that's a bit of a weird one. This season, I don't know what he took. I don't know what he'd done. But this season, he's been on some serious smoke. Playing in that in a back three on that wide left to the left of Ruben Diaz. He's been on job. Absolute job. I've loved every second of watching this guy, kind of play this season. Watching his development throughout the season, what he offers going forward, how defensively astute he is, at the back there, comfortable on the ball, playing with Akanji. And I could have gone, you could pick the whole of Man City back three. I love their entire defense. Ruben Diaz, Akanji, Stones, and Ake. When I look at those four, I'm like, that's a good, comfortable defense, But Ake, for me, has actually been the better performer out of all of them. Alongside him, I've gone Sven Botman. It was between Botman and Ruben Diaz. I've gone with Botman. He's played more games this season. He's been a lot more instrumental to that team, as opposed to, like I said, I feel Ake has been Manchester City's best centre-back this season. So when I think, like I said, John Stones was a thought, but he ain't played enough for me in that defensive role to be considered over, definitely not over Botman. Fabian Schär as well has been excellent this season alongside Botman. But I think Botman has just been so solid. And I think the two of those can actually work pretty well in a defensive unit, one left-footed, one right-footed. But just having someone who's just a rock at the back, got good pace about him, good in the air, good at interceptions, blocks, tackles, all of these kind of different things, decent pace and all of that. I like him quite a lot, man. I like him a lot. So I've obviously gone with Sven Botman. Right back, this is probably the easiest one to pick from. I'll be super. This and striker were the two easiest positions to pick from. There's literally nobody who's even remotely close to Kieran Trippier this season at right back. Like, name whoever you want. You could have, some people were saying Kyle Walker, and I was like, the problem with Kyle Walker is he's not been like that all season. There was a part of the season where he wasn't even playing. You get what I'm trying to say? Sitting on the bench, Pep saying, I don't even need you. Man's got Cancelo doing his thing on that side. All of these kind of like various different things. For me, not even just Cancelo, Akanji, should I say, sorry, doing his thing on that side. But for me, it's Kieran Trippier, and it is not even close. Defensive midfield, like I said, I think he's been the best defensive midfielder this season. There are other shouts. There are honourable mentions. There are Casemiro's. There are Bruno Guimaraes. I don't know if Newcastle fans class him as a defensive midfielder or just a central midfielder. But let's just say, for the sake of the team, you could have put him obviously in there. But it's got to be Rodri. It's got to be Rodri, man. Rodri is, this season, I know when he joined Manchester City, originally, wasn't really putting up any trees like that. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It wasn't really someone where you're like, oh, let me pick. Nah, this season he's taken it up a notch himself, and I think again he's been another one of those players instrumental to what his team have achieved and potentially will achieve in the future. Next up, I've gone with Ødegaard. Like I said, Bruno Guimaraes could have gone in there. Your Casemiro's obviously deserve a shout. Maybe a couple of other players, but I've gone with Ødegaard, captain of the team, such a young age. I don't even know where that even came from to be captain of this team. And he's been able to marshal this team into a title challenge. And I think that would have been difficult for him, especially not really having the experience, obviously, internationally, but for Arsenal and such a big club like Arsenal to be able to manage that, manage the expectations, come out every game week, speaking to the press. Like, I like everything about this guy. And I can see why he is actually a leader in that team, because he's one of those players. It's not just like a Harry Kane situation, who Harry Kane, in terms of leadership qualities, if you wrote them down and asked someone what are the qualities of actually being a leader, I would say, well, Harry Kane is probably one of the worst ones in that regard. But Harry Kane is a person who leads by example in terms of what he does on the pitch. For me, when I look at Ødegaard this season, I feel like he does both what he does on the pitch in terms of ability on the football pitch, but also all the other intangible things. I think that's where Ødegaard, really does shine. And again, like I said, he's been so instrumental to what Arsenal have obviously been trying to do. I had to put him in there, man. Had to put him in there. And again, guys, let me know in the comments, who else would you put in there? Who else deserves a shout? Who else do you think has performed better than him throughout the entire season? Not for 2 months, not for 2 seconds, for the entire season. Next up, this was actually another one which was super easy when I was picking the teams. I don't need to talk too much. This is, for me, the best midfielder in the world, in my opinion. Probably has been for a little while, to be fair. Not just this season. I actually think he was probably the best last season as well, but it just got overlooked because of your Modric and Kroos, because they won the Champions League. I think people overlooked it and were like, nah, but them men are still doing da-da-da-da. Nah, for me, it's always been Kevin De Bruyne. Probably one of my favorite, alongside Haaland. Crazy, Man City got a couple of my favorite players alongside Haaland. One of my favorite players to watch. And I probably prefer watching him over a Haaland kind of thing, to be honest with you. Majestic on the ball. He could do everything, if I'm being honest. Because I've seen him do the dirty. People act like this guy can't do the dirty work. I've seen him do the dirty work. I'm not saying he does it bare, because he doesn't, but I've seen him do the dirty work. And I think this is a guy, I don't even need to talk too much on this guy, man. Like I said, he's a fantastic player. Let's move on to the left wing. This one was tough. Because I don't think there's been one left winger this season who's been consistent all season. That's where I struggled in this position. None of them, for me, have had a full season. So it was like, because they haven't had a full season, it's almost like I had to almost lower the criteria a little bit, because I could have gone Marcus Rashford, but he's been stinky since like February. I could have gone Jack Grealish, but he's only been good since the World Cup. I could have gone, I think there was someone else. Someone tried to obviously people trying to put in Harry Kane and stuff like that. Matoma as well. Matoma, for me, just he's been good in patches, but then I've seen at times I've been like, right, is he even playing? Like, is he even there? So again, it's just more the consistency, and his consistency hasn't been the whole season, if that makes sense. Whereas I feel like Martinelli has been the closest for me in terms of keeping up that level of consistency this season. Helping Arsenal to get to where they were. Again, another instrumental cog in that team. I like him a lot. I have always liked Martinelli. Especially when we lost Sadio Mane, I always thought, you don't know, you know what I'm saying? Just cheeky little 50 million or something. Like, Arsenal won't jink it, but now that's a myth. You definitely ain't getting it for that. But again, like I said, the left wing position was tough, because you could, like, guys in the comments, let me know who you think or who you would put in there. Like I said, it was a difficult position. I don't think it's just as easy as, put Rashford in there, or, put Jack Grealish in there, or put whoever it is that people were putting in that left wing position. I've just gone with Martinelli. I think he's just edged it for me. He's got the goals, he's got the assists, he's got the performances that I think have lasted for longer. Even in games that he hasn't scored in, he's still been performing. So yeah, I've gone with him. Right side, I had to go with Saka. I don't think that there was anyone else to really pick from. if I'm being super honest with you. People are going to say, what about Salah? So just quickly, on Mo Salah, the thing that you've got with him is that he is a stat padder. Now, I love Mo Salah. And again, there's nothing wrong with being a stat padder. Unfortunately, if you're talking about player of a season award or trying to pick players to be in teams and stuff like that, if Bukayo Saka didn't have any numbers, for example, his numbers were like super low and his team were just dead, then you would just have to go Salah, kind of thing, just because there'll be no one really else to kind of put in that position. Unfortunately, Saka's numbers are really good this season, and he's got the performances to go with it. Whereas Salah, his numbers are excellent, but the performance ain't there to go with it. I'm sorry. Sorry for all the Salah sexuals out there, but you can score as many goals as possible. But when you're stinking up the place that you've been stinking up this season, I can't have you in my team in the season, man. I have to go fairly, as fair as possible, and just pick players based upon performance plus stats. In obviously, if you're an attacking player, performance plus stats kind of thing. But if your performance obviously is fantastic, then I'll definitely pick you ahead. And I think, yeah, when it comes to Saka and Salah, which I know a lot of people are probably going to disagree about, for me, I think there's only one clear winner, and that is Saka, and hence the reason why I've got him in there. Up front, we even need to talk about this guy. I've already spoken about him. He's obviously the striker. He's obviously going to be the guy. So, yes, there you guys have it. Let me put up the team in the lineup so you guys can see. So, in goal, Nick Pope. The centre-backs, Ake and Botman. Left-back, Estupinan. Right-back, Trippier. Defensive midfield, we've got Rodri. In the midfield, as a 2, would we say in front of that, you've got De Bruyne with Ødegaard just a little bit ahead of him. Left wing, we've got Martinelli. Up front, Haaland. And on the right side, we have got Saka. Let me know in the comments, guys, who would you pick? Do you agree with this? And if you don't agree, do you think I've been at least fair in terms of trying to explain why I've picked certain players that you've obviously disagreed with? So whether it be, I already know it's the left-hand side already that people might be like, and maybe even potentially Saka as well. Midfield, I feel like you couldn't really argue with that. I feel like you could obviously try to add your Casemiros. I know some people are saying Casemiro because of the impact. I was like, yeah, I hear the impact. I fully hear that. But guess what? Your impact hasn't been as big as flipping Rodri's this season. Your impact has been enough to get you to that position, and you've been a part of some stanky defeats this season. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, real stanky. And Rodri hasn't. Rodri has been instrumental and helping his team into what they're trying to do. De Bruyne, I'm sorry, he has to go into every team of the season. I don't care who it is. No midfielder has outperformed Kevin De Bruyne this season, in my opinion. And then obviously Ødegaard. Ødegaard might have been the one that you might potentially, maybe with a Bruno Guimaraes. Apologies if I'm saying that name wrong. But yeah, maybe with a Bruno G. You feel me? Other than that, I don't really know. And again, maybe Saka. I know people wanted to put Salah in, but again, I said it's all about the performance plus the stats as well, if you're going to be judging it on that. And he just hasn't really done it for me. Haaland, obviously non-negotiable. Maybe the goalkeeper as well. A lot of people said Alisson. Alisson, I do hear the Alisson one. I think the only reason I think I went with Pope over an Alisson was just because of Pope's been a part of that defense as well. And he's, again, when you're important in your team, it's not like you're just one of the players. It's different if, like, because Alisson has had seasons where he's hardly conceded, but he hasn't been instrumental to that. It's been the defense kind of thing. Whereas I've seen with Nick Pope, Newcastle have kept clean sheets in certain situations and stuff like that. Like, and I feel like he's been doing it a lot more consistently, this season, as opposed to when I look at like Alisson, and this is no slight because I think Alisson is one of the better keepers one of the best keepers in the world, top 3 anyway. When I look at him, I'm just like, you were lucky because you have Van Dijk, at the time Gomez or Matip, Robertson, Trent, all those guys are kind of obviously on job and stuff like that. You like the ball never even really came there at times. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So you'll be getting clean sheets, but the ball's not really coming there. Newcastle are under a bit more pressure than that. As good as they have been defensively, they have been under the caution quite a few games anyway this season. But as a unit, as a team, they've done well. That's not to say that when Alisson has been under the cosh, he hasn't done well. This season, Alisson has done tremendously, and he was my second pick. Third was going to be Ramsdale. Alisson was very, very close because without him, Liverpool would be absolutely no idea where they'd be. But with Nick Pope and without him, who knows where Newcastle would have been. So, and right now they're currently sitting in 4th or 3rd, I think. So yeah, man, that's my team of the season. Let me know what you guys obviously think in the comment section. I love a debate, so you already know I'm going to be going hammer and tongs at anybody else. That is my EPL award show done and dusted. Hope you guys like the video. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos over the coming days and weeks, so please stay tuned. Smash that notification bell, smash that like, hit the subscribe button. I'm G, and I'm out, man.